Kyler Murray clearly frustrated with the study clause in his contract, the way he has been perceived. It caused enough of a distraction that the Cardinals released a statement to announce that they have removed the addendum from the contract and stated that their confidence is higher than ever in Kyler Murray. Gary, this is a tough one. What do you make of this situation?
Well, the whole thing is strange, and it obviously spiraled. And I guess I would just take issue with the statement from the franchise because they said this clause was perceived in ways we didn't intend. Well, there's only one way to perceive the clause. The only reason that clause is in the contract is because clearly they didn't think Kyler Murray was putting in the proper work as it pertains to film and studying and focusing while he's doing it. Like that clause, it was never in, I'm certain, Peyton Manning's contracts or Tom Brady's contracts or Patrick Mahomes' contracts. It was placed in his contract for a reason, and I guess they were going to put him $230 million in it, so he's like, sure, whatever, I'll sign it. And then it got leaked, and it became public and became a big story. It looked weird from Arizona's side. You know, why couldn't you just talk about this privately with him and not put it officially in a document? And then it wasn't a good look for Kyler Murray because it certainly suggested that the people who were about to pay him an incredible amount of money to be the face of that franchise for years believe that he needs to be more focused off of the field. And so it is what it is. Was it avoidable? Absolutely. But the idea that anybody, any of us, perceived that clause incorrectly, that's just nonsense. It is what it is.
If you are going to get your feelings hurt, $230 million is a decent way to have to go through that. DK Metcalf and the Seahawks agreed to a 3-year, $72 million extension. Gary, what do you make of yet another wideout getting paid big bucks?
Well, this is the market now for young receivers who are go-to targets and who can catch a lot of balls and score a lot of touchdowns. And obviously DK Metcalf is one of those guys. 3 years, $72 million, $58.2 million in guarantees. Got a $30 million signing bonus, which is the highest ever for a receiver. And it's interesting. And, as other players are trying to get deals done, you might want to pay attention to what DK Metcalf did. He reported to camp, but was not participating in practices until he got a deal done. And then ultimately, they put the money to get this wrapped up. And I don't know if you saw the videos, but he got really emotional signing this contract. Like me, this is a guy from Mississippi who now has, went to Ole Miss and then was a second-round pick. And, you never know if this type of money is ever going to actually be available to you. And to have it all become a reality, it was a really special moment for him and his family and a smart move by Seattle.
And similar to you, millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Gary, with San Francisco turning to a new quarterback this season, how important is it to lock up Deebo long term?
I think very. For that reason, but others. Like the last thing you want is, your featured receiver, a guy who is posting incredible numbers, just went to the Pro Bowl this past season, to be in camp and be resentful as he's watching all these other guys that are comparable to him, or perhaps in some cases inferior to him, getting big, massive deals. You're just turning your franchise over, your offense over, to a second-year quarterback who, at this point, has more questions connected to him than answers. You want to set him, Trey Lance, up for success. And the best way to do that is to have Deebo Samuel on the field working with him during this training camp and then happy as he enters the season. So it sounds like nothing is imminent. Like this isn't going to be something that gets done, in the next 30 minutes or so. But I do think it's important that they get something done. I understand the argument on some level about paying receivers these big amounts of money. But if you're going to draft somebody where he was drafted and then he turns into exactly what you hoped he would turn into, well, what the market says now is you got to pay those guys.
Aaron Boone with high praise for outfielder Aaron Judge. Hit his third walk-off home run this season. The Yankees got back in the win column, beating the Royals in dramatic fashion. GP with the best record in baseball on the trade deadline next week. Is it World Series or bust for the Yanks?
I think if you were to ask Yankees fans, they would say absolutely. When you've got the bats in that lineup that they have and the best record in baseball, this deep into the season, you are aiming toward winning the American League. Obviously, there are other great teams that they're going to be competing with, most notably the Houston Astros, but certainly the Yankees should be considered the favorites right now. Back to Aaron Judge. as a Royals fan, that had to be disappointing for you. First pitch fastball. We had just watched Max Scherzer the night before strike out Aaron Judge 3 times with sliders. He just feed him sliders, and then Scott Barlow, first pitch fastball, leaves it out over the plate, and Aaron Judge does with it what he does with anything you leave out over the plate like that. Third walk-off of the season. Mickey Mantle is the only other Yankee to ever have 3 walk-off homers in a season. And Aaron Judge is having the type of season that is getting his name connected to Yankees greats. Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris. And to do it as free agency is approaching, the timing could not be better. This is a guy who is on track to maybe be the MVP and then get a massive contract offer from the Yankees, perhaps other franchises. He has made a lot of money by refusing to sign last offseason, and now he could be in line, I don't know, like 6 years, $240 million. Like, that's the type of thing that might be in play for him after this season, and the Yankees would be foolish not to put something like that on the table for him because he is a massive presence in that lineup.
Okay, GP, all season the 2 best teams in the American League have been the Yankees and Astros, but the Blue Jays are 10-2 in their last 12. Is it time to consider the Blue Jays a legitimate threat in the American League?
Absolutely. Like you said, 10-2 in the past 12. They're in possession of the first wild card in the American League. Like, they've surged into the All-Star break, and now they're surging out of the All-Star break. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. continues to be terrific. He's hitting .281 on the season, 21 home runs, and you look at that. I mean, they have just been completely overwhelming heading into the All-Star break and then also coming out of it. The other thing you got to remember about Toronto is once they get into the postseason, they could end up with some very big advantages over the opposition. Why? All the players are reportedly vaccinated. They can travel into the United States, back to Canada, no problems. But we have seen one franchise after another have to leave players behind when they go to Toronto to play, St. Louis being the most recent ones. They had 2 all-star infielders that couldn't go to Toronto and play the Blue Jays this week. Now, what happens if Toronto gets into a playoff series and key players of the opposing teams can't play games in Toronto? Well, that's advantage Toronto, and that's among the reasons you got to take them serious.
All right, time to shine. Time now for Gary's FanDuel Major League Baseball lineup. GP, $35,000 budget, and you need a team of 9 guys. Who are you going to go with here?
I went with my picture as Alek Manoah, if only because he was terrific in the All-Star game when he was mic'd up talking to the booth. Big fan of him. He's at the top of my lineup. You see Freddie Freeman there. He has been on fire for the Dodgers. Austin Riley. I'm a Mets fan, so I don't love the Braves, but Austin Riley's basically from my hometown, so I do like to see him do well. Randy Arozarena, playoff star in recent years for the Rays. He made the team. And then you see Jock Peterson at 2,400 there as well.
All right, the MLB season is heating up, and FanDuel is giving all new users an extra $10 when you make your first deposit of $10 or more. There are so many great game styles to choose from, like Classic Showdown, single game contests, and 3-man challenges. Don't miss your chance to win big. Sign up today and start making every moment more with FanDuel. Time now for Love It or Loathe. Gary, I'm going to give you a statement, and you're going to tell me if you love it or loathe it. First up, Shohei Ohtani struck out 11 batters last night over 6 innings, and reports are that the Angels are not ruling out an Ohtani trade. Gary, love or loathe the team that should trade the farm for Ohtani before Juan Soto?
I loathe that. I love Ohtani, but if we're picking between those 2 players, like, I'm trying to sign one of these guys to a long-term deal, and the truth is Juan Soto is only 23 years old. Shohei Ohtani is 28 years old. If you told me I could only have one for the next couple of years, I might go Ohtani. But, people have compared Juan Soto at the age of 23 to a young Ted Williams. I mean, we are talking about a generational talent here. And obviously the same with Ohtani, but again, he's 5 years older. In truth, if I were the Nationals, I would offer him $500 million before I would trade him. I would make him in possession of the biggest single contract in American team sports history. It doesn't appear they're going to do that, but that's the type of 23-year-old talent we're talking about.
Okay, the Yankees already made a splash when they acquired Andrew Benintendi. But love or loathe, the Yankees will land starting pitcher Luis Castillo.
I love that. I think it will happen. They seem very motivated to do it. They're obviously pushing for not just an American League pennant, but a World Series championship. And the reports are that they've had their eyes on Castillo for a while, and now it's time to do what you got to do to get a deal done. And Castillo has been fabulous this season. Career low 2.86 ERA, 90 strikeouts, just 28 walks. Like, if you could throw him straight into that Yankees rotation and give him the run support that Aaron Judge in that lineup is going to give him, it just makes what is the team with the best record in baseball even that much stronger. I think they do get something done by the time that deadline hits next week.
All right, GP, other than Soto or Ohtani, who we mentioned earlier, the best available bat on the market is Cubs catcher Wilson Contreras.
I love that. Contreras is terrific, but I think it's actually Josh Bell. He's just statistically a little better in a variety of ways. He's hitting .302 this season, 13 home runs, .877 OPS. He's got a better average than Contreras, a better OPS than Contreras, better wins above replacement number than Contreras, better slugging percentage, nearly as many as home runs. So Contreras is probably second on that list if you take Soto and Ohtani out of the mix. But I would go with Josh Bell, just slightly ahead of him.
Last one, Gary. Your New York Mets. They've been linked to multiple names over the last couple of weeks, but love or loathe, the New York Mets will make the biggest splash of the trade deadline.
I would love it if they did, but I loathe it because it doesn't appear that they're going to. All of the reporting is that when it comes to Juan Soto, and the Mets were linked there, initially pretty heavily, because they've got an owner who's incredibly wealthy and unafraid to spend incredible amounts of money, evidence being that Max Scherzer is making in excess of $40 million a year now. So the thought initially was the Mets could make a move for Juan Soto and then, be the type of franchise that says, okay, here's 15 years, $500 million. We're happy with that. But it doesn't appear the Mets have the same type of pieces, both young, major league established guys and prospects that the San Diego Padres have or the St. Louis Cardinals have. So most people seem to think if Soto is moved right now, it's either to the Padres or the Cardinals. But I wouldn't rule out the Yankees, wouldn't rule out the Dodgers, and hopefully, the Mets can get in there as well, because as we've talked about, Juan Soto is an incredible talent and a guy who, really was a star at the age of 19 in the big leagues. He's still only 23 years old. He's got, a 10 to 12 year prime in front of him where he, should put up Hall of Fame numbers. And if I could lock that guy in at somewhere, around $35 to $40 million a year, maybe even go above 40 for an extended period of time, I'd be happy to do it.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell for more videos.